everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. It is because on Monday afternoon, right as I got set to record this pod, I saw another new update right as I got set to record. I said, you know what? I'm going to pause, going to regroup, figure out what's going on, and get right back with you. And that's what we're going to do here. So the bonus segment is basically about a really high-profile player that was already in the portal, a kid named Cam Ward. Cam Ward, Washington State quarterback. And the report that I saw late Monday is that he already has a list of schools that he is interested in, and it is some of the biggest names in college football. He is a kid, because he's a grad transfer, he was able to enter the portal last week. So he entered last week. Now this week, we already have an idea of who is recruiting him, and there are some big name schools. So let's go ahead and dive in. A couple things stand out. First of all, Cam Ward is an incredible story, and an incredible, like one of those only in college football stories. So he was basically recruited by nobody coming out of high school. He ends up at a school called Incarnate Word. Balls out at Incarnate Word FCS school, puts up amazing stats, and ends up transferring 2 cycles ago. Once he hits the portal, people start to realize, who is this kid? This kid is unbelievable. I remember he took a bunch of visits. I think he visited Ole Miss, ends up at Washington State. Has 2 very productive years at Washington State. Last year, they go to a bowl game. This year, they struggled. But remember, this was a team that at one point was like in the top 15 in the country. I remember because we talked about this show. I remember Torres. I was like, Torres, we got to talk about my Cougars. Love my Cougars. Torres loves those Cougars. What can I say? I love those Cougars. What can I say? So we talked about Washington State a lot. They struggled down the stretch, but it was not because of Cam Ward. Elite quarterback in an elite conference this year. How about this for 2-year stats on Cam Ward? Ends up throwing over the course of his 2 years at Washington State, 6,400 yards, 43 touchdown passes. This is all for Cam Ward, the quarterback at Washington State. Oh, by the way, he also added 11 rushing touchdowns this year. And remember, you're playing some of the best teams in college football in Washington and Washington State. I mean, listen, last game of the year throws for 3 touchdowns against Washington, throws for 2 touchdowns in that dominant win against Colorado. So credit where it's due. This guy emerged as a legitimate prospect. We heard last week, even before he officially entered the portal, that he had multiple million-dollar offers on the table. And I'm not here to speculate who put what out there before he even entered the portal, but this is the new reality. You feel bad for a school like Washington State. We just talked about it with Oregon State. It's the new world. It stinks. You feel bad for these schools that simply cannot compete financially. Washington State in this new world post Pac-12 is probably one of them, but it doesn't change the fact that this kid is now in the portal and he is highly coveted. So let's get into who may be trending to get him. I saw a report from Pete Nakos of On3 Sports. Pete does a really good job. Don't know him very well, but I know he's a very talented young reporter. And he put out this report. He said this: Florida State, Miami, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Wisconsin, and USC have emerged as names to watch in Cam Ward's recruitment. So let's go ahead and dive into some of those schools. First of all, I think the names on the list, some are not surprising, some are more surprising than others. First one that jumps out, Florida State. Listen, Florida State has been the talk not only of college football, I would argue they've been the talk of the sports world Saturday into Sunday into Monday. And we can debate, did the committee get the decision right? Should a 13-0 ACC team have been in? Should they have been left out? Whatever. But the one thing that, in my opinion, emerged over the last couple weeks, and you can disagree if you want, Florida State fans, don't get mad at me. I'm just a messenger. I think it is obvious to me that Florida State has to be aggressive in the transfer portal at the quarterback position. Because when Jordan Travis went down, they were a completely different team without him. Tate Rodemaker against Florida. Listen, let's stop pretending like he set the world on fire. People say, 12 of 25, 134 yards passing against Florida. Okay. Gets hurt. I get it. Life sucks. I'm not happy to report on an injury, but was that a guy that feels ready to step in for Jordan Travis and keep this program at the level that they are? Obviously, the third stringer played against Louisville. He did his best. He's a freshman. He's young. I get it. But remember, Florida State is a program that right now they have set the standard. We are the future of the ACC conference, and we are the team to beat. And so you look at the talent they have across the board. You look at the fact that they're probably going to bring in a top 5 recruiting class this year. They always recruit the portal well. You have to get good quarterback play, and frankly, better quarterback play than frankly is probably available on the roster. We heard last week that DJ Uiagalelei, Florida State, could be a spot for him. So the fact that they're recruiting Cam Ward does not surprise me at all. Florida State makes a ton of sense for that kid. Same time, you know who else makes sense? Florida State's ACC rival, the Miami Hurricanes. Listen, Mario Cristobal, you like him, you don't like him. Is he overrated? Is he this? Is he that? Guy's an elite recruiter. And the one thing you cannot deny, from year 1 to year 2, 5-7 to 7-5, and the talent upgrade in that program was significant. Young offensive line, a lot of skill position talent. The defense was improved this year. But we also saw quarterback play wasn't good enough. Tyler Van Dyke, shout out to my Connecticut kid. He is from Glastonbury, Connecticut, beautiful little town not far from where I grew up. But obviously, he was not very good this year. He struggled with turnovers. He ended up hitting the portal himself a few days ago, and we'll see where he ends up. After that, they put in the kid, Emory Williams. You feel terrible. Took a nasty, nasty injury, ironically, to that Florida State team that we just discussed. So we know that Miami is very much going to be in the quarterback market as well. A lot of talent on that roster, young talent, a program on the rise. Remember, 12-team playoff next year. That feels like a program that could be in position if they make another leap. Could they be 9-3 knocking on the door of a 12-team college football playoff? Maybe. Listen, Mario Cristobal, you could criticize him for whatever. That's a guy that would have had in a 12-team playoff era multiple teams in the college football playoff at Oregon. He's moved down to Miami. We'll see if he can make a leap in year 3. He clearly needs quarterback. Another name on that list, listen, Ohio State, it is so obvious. We just talked about it with Kyle McCord, and it's obvious that they're in the market for a quarterback in the portal. Every big name that has entered clearly has been linked to Ohio State, whether it's Dante Moore, the UCLA quarterback transfer, whether it's Dylan Gabriel. I've seen some buzz about him, and obviously it would make sense for Cam Ward. Listen, criticize Ryan Day for whatever, and I've criticized him for plenty. The man can develop quarterbacks. I thought Kyle McCord took too much blame for the Michigan loss, but I also thought he's not at the level of a C.J. Stroud, a Justin Fields, a Dwayne Haskins. And so I bring it up, get Cam Ward in there with all the – first of all, Cam Ward threw for 48 touchdown passes the last 2 years at Washington State, respectfully. They don't got the wide receiver talent that Ohio State will have next year with potentially Emeka Egbuka back, with Carnell Tate, with Brandon Inniss, with Jeremiah Smith, the number 1 recruit in the country. I'm just here to tell you that would be a very interesting fit. And I think Ohio State, I'll say this really quick. Ohio State is one of the schools, I think they're going to fill that spot quick. I think they're going to identify the 2-3 guys that they want, and they're going to say, look, everything is here for you right now to come in and compete. And by the way, we're Ohio State. 12-team playoff. We're going to make the college football playoff in 2024. Come here, be a playoff quarterback. Great, offensive line is improving. Wide receiver core is elite. The defense is elite. Come here, be great. Ohio State, I think they fill that quarterback spot quick. They identify who they want and go after them. Couple other notes. USC being on this list is very interesting. USC to me is interesting just because I wouldn't have assumed, that long ago that they would be in the market for a quarterback coming into this offseason. Remember, they had a 5-star quarterback in the program. A kid by the name of Malachi Nelson was the number 2 quarterback in the high school class last year behind only Arch Manning. Okay. And so I bring that up to say, that was a program that I assume they're set at quarterback. I assume they're good to go. I assume they don't need anybody else. So the fact that they're recruiting a quarterback says to me, Malachi Nelson maybe isn't quite ready for the spotlight just yet. And so could USC be a factor for him? That's interesting because, one, USC is recruiting him. They've been very active in the portal. I heard that they spoke with Will Howard, the transfer from Kansas State. But it's also interesting because of the fact, if they take a transfer quarterback, does it mean that Malachi Nelson, a former 5-star, enters the portal? Keep an eye on that. Oregon, interesting spot. They need a quarterback, right? Very, very good team this year. And the one thing about Oregon, they are going to have talent, a lot like that Ohio State team. As I just said, Oregon, you know they're going to be good along the offensive line. You know they're going to be good on defense. You know they're going to have skill position guys. But the one spot they don't have the answer is at quarterback. Next year, they're going to be really good. By the way, their recruiting class is insane this year. Basically, every big kid on the West Coast, every big name on the West Coast is going to Oregon. So I just bring it up to say Oregon needs a quarterback, and then Washington. I mean, imagine, the Apple Cup is going on. Bedlam down in Oklahoma is not going on anymore. The Apple Cup is still going on. Imagine going into Washington State Stadium next year as the Washington quarterback after 2 years at Washington State. Now, listen, I know this is the portal world. Guys move around. But you talk about Washington State first getting abandoned by the Pac-12, and then their starting quarterback leaves for their biggest rival. Oh, that would be insane. So we'll see if Washington's a factor. I don't think there's a strong feel for who could be in the mix. They mentioned Wisconsin as well. But I just think it's interesting, his recruitment, because he is going to be a top priority, and it kind of shows you who needs quarterbacks at this time: Oregon, USC, Washington, Ohio State, Florida State, etc. All right.